Welcome to LollieTasking with ADHD. I am your host, Dr. Lola, a multi-passionate mom of three, a physician, and an ADHD life coach because, like most of you amazing women listening, I have ADHD. Join me as we chat about how ADHD affects our lives and learn strategies to help us all thrive, not just survive, with ADHD so we can live the life we want while accomplishing all our goals. Let's get started. Hello. Welcome to LollieTasking with ADHD. How are you doing, ladies? I hope you had a fantastic last week. My last week was a little tiring, to be honest. I've been a little bit under the weather, and to be honest, I almost did not record this podcast. And I may be pausing and coughing in between, and for that I apologize. If I sound a little sickly, it's because I am sick. But I am here for you. Let's do this, okay? So, before we get started, I want to give an amazing shout out to one of our listeners. Her name is Madavi Chamada, okay? She said it was very good and motivating listening. You busted the myth that high achieving and academic achievers can also have ADHD. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for this, Madavi. I appreciate you all listening and giving me feedbacks. It's been an amazing 1 week. You all know how positive reinforcement motivates us to keep going. So keep it up, guys. Keep it up. I love it. More importantly, it allows more people to find out about our amazing podcast, which allows us to share more with the world because there are a lot of people like us out there. We're just not the only one, right? So the more you review, the more comments you leave, the more people will listen and the more people the podcast will get into. So thank you again, Madavi, and welcome to the LollieTasking family. All right. So again, my name is Dr. Lola. I'm a physician, mother of three, a productive mom life strategist, and an executive function and ADHD life coach for amazing women who are tired of working too damn hard to reach their goals. It's time to start working smart, not hard, guys. Who's here with me? Yay. So today we are going to talk. We're going to talk about why is the podcast dedicated to accomplished women with ADHD. Why? So I want to talk about this because someone actually asked me that same question. So I figured if someone is asking me, so there's probably more people asking, like, why is it not just for everybody? Or why is it not just for women? Why specifically is it for accomplished women? And what the heck does that even mean, accomplished women, right? Okay, so first of all, this podcast will help everyone with ADHD. It's not going to help only accomplished women, but there are three main reasons why this podcast was dedicated specifically to the professional woman, the entrepreneurial woman, or quote unquote the accomplished women with ADHD. And when I mean by accomplished, I'm not saying other women are not accomplished. I don't want you to take it that way. But these are women who have reached a certain level in their career, in society, whatever it is they do. And because they've reached that level, people tend to doubt their diagnosis of ADHD. So these are the women I'm talking about. It doesn't necessarily mean that no one else can benefit from it. Actually, the more people that listen, the better, because I'm a fair believer and you can learn from anything and everywhere. You just got to take what applies to you and use it. That's the most important thing. So I always say, there are three reasons why I want to discuss this. Number one, we have fallen into the myth that smart girls cannot have ADHD. So most of us went undiagnosed as a child. And before we can even talk about the diagnosis, let's talk about the three types of ADHD. We have the hyperactive or impulsive type. And for girls, it may display as being interrupting the teachers or friends while talking, comma during the conversation. Have you had that one friend with her? She just has to get hers in. Excuse me. You could be chatty. Um, you are up and about. You talk before you think. You tend, but this type tend to actually mature as you age. Whereas in boys, hyperactive is like the boy who's always destroying stuff or always up and about, always, getting into things. For girls, it's a little different, okay? So people don't really think about us. I'm not saying girls don't have some symptoms that guys have. I'm just saying this is typically how they present and why they miss us. And then you have the inattentive type. The inattentive type is the woman who's easily distractible, or they see it, or the outside world, I like to say, see it as a decreased attention, like you're forgetful. People who say you lack attention to detail. But the problem is you're actually always in your zone. That's why it seems like you're not being focused. You're kind of like in your head. So even in the hyperactive side, I do feel like a lot of women that are diagnosed as inattentive from an outward standpoint are actually hyperactive in their brain. Like I always tell people, like my brain really feels like there's a circus going on. I have like multiple things going on at the same time. Okay, so that's that. Um, and then you have the combination. So the combination type has both the inattentive type and the hyperactive slash impulsive type all together. This is the type I have, right? I can be very up and about, interrupting, social butterfly, and at the same time, I can also be the one who's like dead staring you in the face and have no clue what you're talking about, right? So this type is actually a little bit confusing for people because the mode you go in is just depending on the situation, right? For me, when I'm around my family and my close friends, I'm very much the hyperactive, impulsive type, right? But when I'm around people I don't know or in a situation I'm not as comfortable in, I can actually set it into the inattentive type. Or when I'm forced to kind of like be in a certain environment that my body is not used to, I can kind of set into the inattentive type. And this is not a conscious decision that I make, it just happens, right? So that's how that goes. Another thing is that when it comes to diagnosis, a lot of times people are like, I can't have ADHD because I am organized, or I actually don't forget a lot, right? But a lot of times it's because we have put those things in place, okay? Which leads me to, why do we go undiagnosed? I'm so sorry, guys. I really, if I cough, if I sneeze, if I just let's roll with it. This is one of those days, and I appreciate you for listening to me. So, why we go undiagnosed, besides just not presenting typically the way boys do, is because new research has shown that in the past they've always thought that ADHD was much more prevalent in boys, and as high as like 3 to 8 times more than girls. But the new research is actually showing that it's actually almost about the same amount in boys and girls. But the problem is the misdiagnosis or the underdiagnosis. So ADHD, especially in girls, gets misdiagnosed a lot as anxiety. But we can also have anxiety and depression because it's a comorbid condition. When I say comorbid, there's like two things that can happen at the same time. However, a lot of women would try anti-anxiety medicine and it just doesn't work until their ADHD is under control. And then they realize that anxiety mainly comes from their inability to cope with their ADHD symptoms. Anxiety in many ways makes us feel like we're always on the edge. A constant state of what color constant state of overwhelm, or we have this internal restlessness that we have. Okay, so that's a lot of time why we become anxious. Another thing that we're actually known for is emotional dysregulation, and this is not talked about a lot. I'm going to have a whole podcast episode about emotional dysregulation, but we tend to be super, super sensitive sometimes, you know? So we'll talk about that another day. Um, but like I said, when we go undiagnosed, a lot of us feel broken. And we end up with low self esteem. Some of us, right? Some of us have eating disorder and we start to binge eat, which may lead to obesity. We may have, you tend to have addictive traits. And some of us, because we know it, we stay away from things that are highly addictive. But unfortunately, some of us fall into that trap too. um, a lot of us do feel inadequate, right? Because we can't meet the societal norms of what they consider a woman or a mom is supposed to be like. You know, a woman or mom is always supposed to be on top of everything. Whereas it's okay for dad to forget birthdays, right? It's okay for dads to forget. Well, no, it's not okay, but we're more forgiven when the men forget the birthdays and the anniversary. But how dare a mom forget birthdays and anniversary, even though she's having to keep track of everybody's names, everybody's birthdays, everybody's projects, everybody's anniversary, you know? So we're supposed to keep it all together, right? We can't be too sensitive. Um, or some of us are very sensitive, and it's okay to acknowledge that. Oh, where we, however, are not all sensitive. Some of us put up a tougher outer shell to cover that inner, deep inner sensitivity, because we all have this empathic, well, not all, majority of us have this empathic trait that we just want to run to help. But not everybody really needs our help, right? And sometimes when we get hurt, and when we're put down, then we put out this external exterior, right? That helps protect the inner child in us. Um, some of us also daydream. I talked about that earlier, because we have too many tabs open in our brain. We can look you dead in the eye and even and even nod every now and then. But you would ask us a question and we have no idea where you're trying to go to with that question. Isn't that interesting? So that's number one. All right. So the number two reason why this is dedicated to the accomplished amazing women is that life can be very hard for us. It's way too hard for us actually, and like me, it's been hard. But because we're really really good at masking our symptoms, we tend to overcompensate, right? We tend to overcompensate by being perfectionists and being amazing at what we do, but a lot of times while sacrificing our time for ourselves or like leisure activity, or feel like we're hiding, like feel like we're some kind of imposter. Um, I tell women all the time, ADHD is driven by value and motivation. And innately, I feel like women like us tend to have more motivation to succeed academically than our counterparts. But it's mainly because we work harder, not smarter, to hide all our symptoms that we have. That way we can pass as normal, whatever the heck normal is, right? Like, who is really normal? I used to study twice as hard, guys, as most of people, to be able to get the grades I got. And when people would say, "Oh my God, you're so smart," I would always say something so stupid. Now that I'm talking, it's so silly of me to even say that. I would always say, "Oh no, I'm not. I just work hard." Um, I had come to believe this lie, right? This lie that I was that smart. I had come to believe that my success was based solely on my hard work and not my natural intellect. I became a study holic, and yes, I made that up. I would always just throw myself into studying because I knew that I had to overstudy to help navigate, to help prevent the little mistakes I'll make. Because by this time I'd studied it enough that it's become almost like a habit for me, right? So, one thing we all have in common is that we tend to all have some amount of structure in place when we're younger, and it kept our symptoms also in place. To we had masking in front of family, we had masking in front of school, um, and like we always had that structure, like I said, in place, and that really helped us a lot. In my case, early on, I knew I thrived with structure, so I would always like have some amount of rigidity in my structure. Um, and it helped out a lot. It really did. So I thank God, I thank my family, I thank the insight I had even as a child, because I feel like that really helped me a lot. Um, However, here's the thing though, our bubble does burst as we ascend and take care of more responsibilities and become overwhelmed with stuff and stuff and stuff and stuff and tasks and things to do, right? And these tend to challenge our executive function on multiple fronts, right? Because now we're not worrying just about ourselves, but now we're also worried about family and kids, you know? So a lot of times when we get into adulting, like I said, it's why we get into adulthood or parenting or taking care of our families and being more responsible for our business. Being the main person that allows things to move. While it may be fun, it can also be kind of paralyzing for us because then we get exhausted, you know? Um, so I always say, like, we are good problem solvers, right? But when you're faced with problem solving, need for prioritization and planning ahead for not just you, but other people around you, that's when we tend to feel exhausted. We tend to feel like we can't get anything done. We then tend to feel like, okay, this is too much, Like I said, the constant fear of inadequacy, the constant fear that people would know or they'll find out your secrets, okay? So, I think you're the most important person that you need to know for yourself, okay? The number 3 reason why this was dedicated to accomplished women is that we actually may still feel or doubt our diagnosis. And we may tell us that, oh, it's just mommy brain, or it's just overwhelmed brain, oh, is it really ADHD? I don't have everything that they say is necessary for the symptoms. First of all, you don't have to have everything. There's a minor criteria and there's a major criteria. We could talk about this in other times. But it's not a lot for us. It's not a lot of us out there, right? So when our husband and our friends, our partners, people we know minimize our symptoms and say, girl, you don't have ADHD. Of course, you're forgetful. You have a lot going on. Which woman won't be forgetful, right? Except there are a lot of women that are not forgetful. Um, so this show is dedicated to you, ladies. I see you, I hear you, and I'm here for you, okay? Through this podcast, we will discuss not only problems, but we will come up with some solution, right? But feel like this sounds like you. I always say it is very important to get help, okay? So how do you get help? Make sure you try to seek an executive function or ADHD coach. They help you with strategies and being able to put things in place. Accept your diagnosis. When you if you don't have a diagnosis yet, get diagnosed. There's comfort in knowing that you are not broken, and you just have to learn to use your diagnosis appropriately. So this kind of reminds me of like in every superhero movie, right? In the beginning, they are clumsy and they want to run away. Like, what is this that's happening to me? I want to be like everybody else. Then they find out that, wow, this is actually amazing. You're not broken. Focus on the positives of your diagnosis. You are the idea queen. You are the empathetic sage. You are the boss lady who's able to solve any problem thrown to her on the spot. It is okay to have to give to have to give someone else to execute the things that you have, right? Like, you be the idea generator and found someone else to execute it for you. Never feel bad about getting help. So, like I said, it's very important to get help understanding your ADHD. You can also do it with a coach, and that can help you put things in place. Like I said earlier, medication is also an option. It's not for everybody, but it's an option. However, I always recommend pairing medication with some kind of executive function skill course or coach that can keep you accountable to yourself. Okay, so those are the three things. To summarize, the reason why this show was diagnosed to accomplished women is, number one, we fell into the myth that smart girls can have ADHD, so we all went undiagnosed. And, we kind of want to meet each other and talk to each other. And number two, life can be very hard for us, and actually it's been hard for majority of us. And number three, we may still doubt our diagnosis, and we're not sure if it really is. And to be honest, the only way to find out about that is truly be diagnosed, right? I don't think it necessarily has to wait till you get all the way better. If you're exhausted now, this may be the time that you need to seek help, okay? So, if you could do one thing from the episode, what is the one thing you would do? I would say write it down and create a plan for it and do it. And please feel free to email me what that plan is, or even tag us on IG or whatever that plan is, because I would love to hear from you, okay? So this is another short episode, but I just want to thank you so very much for joining us for another amazing episode of LollieTasking. We will have our show information below. And, to contact us, feel free to send us a message at hello@LollieTasking.com. Or you can also go to our website at LollieTasking.com. That's AWE.LollieTasking.com. So feel free to contact us at any time. Till next time, remember, you can do it too, with some planning, a little bit of balance, and a dash of determination. This is LollieTasking. Thanks for hanging out with us on another episode of LollieTasking with ADHD. If you like what you've heard today, I would love for you to click the subscribe button, rate, and leave a great review, in addition to share with your friends. Your review allows visibility and also allows other amazing women to find this podcast. Also, if you have any questions or topics you would like for us to discuss, please contact me via direct message on Instagram at LollieTasker, or email us at hello@LollieTasking.com. Till next time, this is LollieTasking with ADHD.